Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. This is Ron. It's a little after 11 a.m. Let's begin. We'll see if we have any questions. We had a very interesting day yesterday. We talked about a lot of things. Uh, we spent some time uh, uh, talking about energy levels and mindsets and good and evil and how all of these things intertwine. We started off the day with a question Evelyn had about the World Economic Forum and some of the observations she had from that forum and talked about that and energy fields and higher elevations and what comparing to what Jesus did when he went to the mountain, looking at that from a physical and a spiritual perspective, what all of that meant. So those are some of the things we went over on yesterday. And of course, as always, I'm sure I'm missing something, leaving something out, but we can begin with that to see if we have any questions on anything that was discussed yesterday or anything else that may have grabbed your attention. Questions or comments?
Good morning, Ron. I have a question, but it doesn't necessarily relate to.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, anything, any other topic. Yes, ma'am. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Um, this is sort of like a myth buster. There are
Okay.
some sayings that we usually say just off the top of our head, and we think we are saying it from a compassionate perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now that we've learned more, uh, it has new meaning. And one of the sayings that I'd like somebody to comment on is there for the grace of God go I. You know, when we see somebody who seems to not be uh, doing well, or something is going on with them, or perhaps they're homeless or whatever, or perhaps uh, they're um, on drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
We just automatically in the past have made the comment, there for the grace of God go I. But there's something deeper. And so I believe that we need to stop saying statements like that. So I appreciate comments.
Why do you think we should stop saying statements like that?
Well, wherever I see, observe, there for the grace of God go I, it says that implied in that is it says, I'm thankful to God that that's not me. But what
Gotcha.
we understand and know now is that is me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so to say there for the grace of God seems to diminish that knowledge of the person is me and I am he or she. Does that resonate?
it does. It is. Yeah, it's saying the other person does not have the grace of God. I remember we were talking about this one time, and Richard, I don't see whether he's on or not, but he said that they say, uh, but for fortune that goes out. You remember that? And we were talking about that. I don't think we were in a class. I think it was a sidebar afterwards. We were just having that discussion, I believe, about that. And I thought that was interesting. And he thought it was interesting that we said by the grace of God. And there's, white people say but for fortune that goes out. But both of them are saying the same thing, I suppose. One is saying that if it wasn't for what I have, that would be me. And we are saying if it was not for the grace of God, that would be me. But they don't have any grace or they don't have any money. So that's their fault, that kind of thing. And so I see that from both perspectives is my point. Make sense, Barbara Jean?
It does. But even more so, it I have to understand that that really is me.
Yes.
can't, and it's like you just said, when I say that, it implies that that other person doesn't have the grace of God. And that person may be more at peace, more in rhythm, more in harmony than any of us. But we're looking at it with our eyes rather than the eye.
Yes. I can
May I
see
make
that.
a comment?
Yeah.
Good morning. This is Mary. I also, whenever I hear people say that, I don't say that much. If I do, not very much, if at all. And one of the things when you say something like that is you don't judge, because a lot of people are in different situations. And the first thing you want to say is they don't have to do this or they don't have to be in that situation. But you don't know. So when you see someone, I've heard people say they're for the grace of God, but for me, I just pray and ask God for strength for whoever that is, because yes, it could have been me if I'd have made those choices, but like Barbara said, it is me now that I know better, but it's not for us to judge, because I hate when people say if they go to work and get a job, they can have a car. That just breaks my heart, because you don't know those people's circumstances. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
I guess it's a part of me that has come to believe as we have these discussions that there is no such thing as a coincidence. If I believe that for my life, then I believe it for every life. So we think a lot of times people put themselves in that position, and I don't anymore think that's the case. Everybody who is homeless is not on drugs or an alcoholic or getting out of prison or something. Life has its circumstances. I remember watching this thing on television. They were talking about homelessness, and this couple in Seattle, Washington, both of them were degreed. He was a postman and she was a school teacher and had been teaching for a number of years, and they were both homeless. They were living in a tent. And it really broke my heart. It's a lot of it, I think, is for us to see ourselves, see the mirror. And as Barb said, we say there, if not for the grace of God. So we do see the mirror, but the mirror also it's designed to show us how to be compassionate and how to look at that and say, as Barb said, the grace of God, that is me, and I see me. I see me naked. I see me exposed. I see me in a vulnerable place. What can I do to help this? So I'm glad she said that. I had not thought about it from that perspective, but yeah, but it does a couple of things. It separates us from other people, and it makes us feel like the people are being punished or getting what they deserve, and we know that that is not always the case. So just wanted to add that part.
If
Yeah.
if it were not people like that, the people who were in need, I want you to know you have love and kindness. If people didn't go through things, if it's like when a baby is stillborn or dies shortly after birth. I believe things like that, circumstances like that, that whether you're empathetic to other people. Do you really believe that love and kindness should be extended to everyone, regardless of circumstance? And those kinds of things help us to see that. Now, am I saying that that was put in place for me to see that and have love and kindness, or know that I do have it? That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that in situations, circumstances like that, speaks to us in more than one different way. Like if I had enough money, I would buy them a house and put them in it. They might not want a house. They might want to be where they are. And there are homeless people who want to be where they are. Now, those who can't do any better, that meet in Davos, Switzerland. That's what causes that. The level of poverty is based upon the decisions that's made for the world every year at that economic conference. And that's honestly, I do believe that it was not flesh and blood that brought Evelyn to the place of bringing that up. I don't believe that. I believe that it was brought up because we need to be mindful of it and understand the power of it. So when we talk about our desire to alter the mindset of those quote unquote politicians so that laws would be different, it's not the politicians whose mindset need to change primarily. They need to change, but not primarily. The primary mindsets that need to be altered is the mindset of those who met at Davos, because they are the ones who determine who's going to live, who's going to die. They are the ones who determine how poor a nation is going to be or how wealthy it's going to be. They are the ones who make a decision that sub-Saharan Africa will remain in poverty, because if it doesn't, the world will not be prosperous at all. The prosperity of Europeans is based upon of what they can steal from sub-Saharan Africa, primarily. Now, of course, other parts of Africa, but sub-Saharan Africa creates the prosperity for the whole world. So those are the kind of mindsets need to be altered, because they are responsible, directly responsible for worldwide poverty. Does that make sense?
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor, who is responsible? I missed that part. I'm sorry.
The contingency of people who met in Davos, Switzerland, to determine the economic direction of the world for the next year.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
I thought it was interesting you brought, someone said something, give you an example, stillborn babies and things like that, and you know what happens, and then you talk about loving kindness. Can I read something right quickly from a perspective of the baby that died, in a sense?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a letter to my mommy and daddy. Don't cry too long for me, mommy and daddy, because I'm back home with my creator, you see. God gave me purpose and a destiny, and even if my earthly time was short, I fulfilled it completely. I'm more than the body I lived in. It's true. The essence, the spirit that God gave me is the real me. The spirit never dies. I live on in your thoughts and memories. I'm still alive. For God so loved the world that he gave his son, his word wrapped in flesh. God so loved you that he gave you me, and my purpose was to give others my best. You remember the nurse who had 2 cats and a dog? When she held me and rocked me, I was like her very own, for I gave her joy. And the nurse who came in on her day off to be with the whole family, the day I closed my eyes and woke up in eternity, I gave her the chance to express compassion, kindness, and love. And mommy, when you held me and said, how's my little boy today? I heard you, I felt you, I knew my mother's love, and I gave you a chance to feel tenderness and love too. For your very own child, for tiny little me, God so loved that he gave unselfishly, and like my creator, I gave too. Do you see? So don't ask why, but ask why not. Why wouldn't God use a child like me, created in the image of his own divinity? Time and age has no meaning in eternity. I fulfill my destiny in all the lives that I touched. Family, nurses, doctors, and so many others. So live, mommy, live. Give of yourself and touch the lives of others as I have done. As you have touched mine, don't cry too long for me, mommy and daddy, for I'm back home with our creator. Now you see. So it's sort of like flips the script in a sense, and and says to that grieving mother, don't grieve too long. I did what I was purposed to do, which is another way to look at even death in an infant or newborn or stillborn. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good start. Anyone else? Any questions or comments about anything?
Yeah, good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone. This is George. In
Hey,
Philly,
George.
I just wanted to, respond, when we talked about, being a repairer of the breach, as I listened to what Barbara read, in this person's own way, they were bringing a spiritual awareness in terms of just being able to appreciate. A lot of times we ask the question, why death? But why do we not ask the question, why life? And so for us to be able to exist, for us to be able to appreciate where we are today, even in terms of looking at homelessness, all of us, I believe have a desire to want to bring loving kindness, harmony, balance, to the universe. And I believe that as we were talking about, not to judge, but we know that there's persons who are going through hardships, going through challenges, and to be able to listen how to help, I think is the question, because some people may not necessarily want the help that you would like to give, but just being able to realize, how do we bring balance? I know everybody's situation can be different, but I know that in experiences that, I've had, with working with young adults, a gentleman mentioned to me, that he's happy to have been able to make amends with his parents because the person was homeless, but now he's able to, be back, with his parents. And everybody's situation, I say, is different, but I was happy to hear that he was able to, humble himself, or he was able to bring reconciliation, by being able to realize how much he missed that which was always there for him, but in ways that, how do we see it in the spiritual realm? So I just wanted to share those thoughts. I don't know if it totally resonates with what Barbara was saying, but I think that, again, we all have the opportunity to be a repairer of the breach, in that way that the Creator is calling for us to do it. I just wanted to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you, George. I like that. The coupled with what Barbara said, it gives us a segue into something that I was looking at actually when I was late getting on, and that deals with selfishness and the idea of saying that, but for the grace of God, there goes I. That in itself is a sense of selfishness. I want to be where I am, but they can't be, that kind of thing. As well as what Barbara read and George responded to, speaks to the idea of being selfless. I don't want you to feel the way you experience what you experience simply because I'm gone, simply because I'm okay. I'm back with the Creator, and sometimes we get selfish about people in the earth who are bedridden, who are sick, and we force them to hold on because we don't want them to go. Even sometimes when we realize that their going would be better than their staying in the state that they are in. So I think that idea of selfishness comes into play here. One of the things I was looking at when the three people, one came in the morning, one came in midday, one in the evening, and there was a complaint about all of them getting the same wage. And the ones who were complaining were selfish because they felt like since they had been there, they should have received more than the one who came last. However, the circumstances dictates the reason why this took place. And just like the circumstances dictates how we should respond to certain situations. The idea of judging is Jesus says that you're not supposed to judge you not unless you be judged. But it says by the same, basically by the same judgment that you have meted out. So whatever method you use to judge, you're going to be judged by that as well. So if it's selfishness, then you'll be judged accordingly. So when those guys or women or whomever it was, probably men, in that parable that Jesus spoke, when they went to work, they had no idea of the selfishness in them. I think Jesus was telling us that we, as someone said earlier, need to view the circumstances before we make any calls about the reason people are in the circumstances that they are in. And I think that this particular parable speaks to that. Knowing the circumstances before you open your mouth, before you offer judgment, or before you determine within your own mind the reason these circumstances have befallen these people. So, Roy, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, you made me think of something when you were saying that. My question would be, is there anyone on this phone, whether you are someone who speak regularly or you just tune in 3 days a week, you're still just as much a part of it as any of us. Is there anyone on here to think from a spiritual perspective or economically for that matter, that you deserve something for what we do? Does the earth owe us anything? Does mankind owe us anything? Do you think there's some special reward that we should get for doing this? It boils down to, how do we value what we do throughout the weekend? And the reason why I say that, compared to the parable that Pastor read, taking ownership in something you do, if you are a parent, you become a parent because of love, because of compassion, and you get your reward when you see your children doing well, when they prosper, when they go out in the earth and they can take care of themselves and have their own families. That is your reward. So just like this parable, we are all to take ownership of what we do. And that's part of what I saw in that. Taking ownership of it is not being a hireling and think you deserve something. When you move to that point, you see separation. When you move to that point, you see selfishness, and you have no compassion for anybody. So that's just part of, to me, what was being said there, what Pastor was saying. That's kind of what I got from it. That's who and what we've been taught, to have divisions, and I got mine, and it's if you didn't, it's because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. As we know, that's not always the case. So anyway, that's just something I want to add.
Well,
I'm
good.
going to delve deep. Excuse me for 1 second, George. I want to delve a little bit deeper into that parable in just a moment, for some things that I saw, and I think it will speak to everything that we've said. That is one other thing you said, Ron, that eludes me at the moment. But go ahead, George.
Good morning. But just to answer your question, Ron, I am old. And what I mean by I am old, I'm not saying that any one of you all owe me anything. It's what I owe myself. And to elaborate more on that, I believe in generating my own success, like I generate my own discomfort, my own failure. So I am old, yet I am not owed by another individual. It's what I owe myself. Because if you're depending on, it's like the thank you thing I wrestled with. And I'm wrestling with because someone didn't tell me thank you. Thank your own god doggone self. So we all are old, yet whatever you think you are old, you can generate that your own self. And that's where it becomes real difficult for where I was at a certain time in my life. Yeah, you owe me. I bought your kids Girl Scout cookies, and my son is in AAU, and you didn't buy that fish sandwich to help the team out. Yet, with some people who have asked me to aid them in their project, that's one of the first things that I ask them. This may not be your season because you depended on me. Because I look at it, if I have to, when my mom and daddy was living or my daddy was living, if I had to ask my daddy to help me, this wasn't my season. So I do think we are old. I know I am old. And whatever I think that I am old, I can generate that myself. Thank you.
I guess yeah, what I was saying from a perspective of ownership, no one, no one grows up, raise their kids. Excuse me, I'm confusing my thoughts here. And think their kids owe them. You have a running cost of what your kids owe you for buying them shoes or for paying a tuition or whatever. We talk all the time about we believe no one else in earth does what we do, and I believe that. My pay is the privilege of doing this. I look at this and think of all the people in the world, out of all the generations we talk about, I got an opportunity to do this. I'm part of this. I'm part of changing humanity. What more? Why else was I born? What else in this earth could I be doing that's greater than us being on this phone? What on earth could I gain other than doing this that's greater than doing this? That's what I was pointing out. So the O is even the parable that Pastor read is, you're not in a place because you're not supposed to be there. Take ownership of it. I go to work every day. I have no stock in Mac Molding, but that little corner that I work in is mine. It's mine, and I give it the best I got for that day that I'm there. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This is a privilege. This is a privilege to be here and to do this and to stand here in this gap for mankind. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. But
the way I read what you were saying, asking rather, is what kind of value do we place on what we do? Am I right?
Yes.
There is absolutely nothing in my life that takes priority over what we do. I value that more than anything else. And the reason I value that more than anything else is because it reaches the heart of humanity. And the goal, the objective, the purpose is to bring harmony to a world that is festering in chaos, hatred, and anything else that you could think of that is adverse to loving kindness. I cannot see myself not doing that. I can see myself not doing a lot of things, but this is not one of them. I love this so much, not because of my love for teaching, but I love it so much because I can see the positive effects that it's having on humanity. The opportunity that we have been given, the responsibility that we shoulder, is a responsibility that no one else has had because the mantle was not taken up. This is a hill that I would die on in a heartbeat because of what it does for humanity, not just my family, not just my friends, but people who I will never see in this earth benefit from what we do. That's more important to me than anything I can think of. Nothing preempts that. And that is the reason when if I have to be at the doctor at the hospital with Phoebe, I make sure that somebody is here to do this. And I cannot place an earthly value on it. But I say again, there is nothing that I value more because of the benefits that humanity received from it. And I'm hoping that others place the same types of values on what we do. And I think the majority of it is not all that we do because you keep coming back and you keep listening and you keep raising questions and you keep giving comments. So I think it's valuable. That type of value, rather, is placed on it by most of us. And I do not want that question that you raised, Warren, to be rhetorical. Because I think it's sometimes we need to revisit our reason for being here and how we look at it and how we feel about it. I think we should be more expressive of that, more so than we have in the past. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to your value, how you value what we do?
I think it speaks to purpose. It speaks to reason for being, and that reason for being is whatever contribution that I can make to humanity. And there's so many things I wish I could do from a physical, mental perspective, but I don't want to do what I wish I could do. I want to do what's needed, which takes it out away from me. I want to do what's needed, and I feel that this is so needed, more so than anything else. Balance for everyone, because if it's balance for everyone, it doesn't matter what I have or what I don't have. It doesn't matter who my mom is or who my family is or who they are not. If the issue is balance for everyone, then we all have that same opportunity to be one with our Creator. So for me, that's the essential part of it for me, that everyone would come to that point where they know who they are, and then experience it and walk therein.
Thank you. You muted, Ron.
I think for me, I feel like I'm doing this all for me because I have so many questions, and I've always had questions my whole life. And now I'm getting some answers to those questions. But I've come to realize I'm not just doing it for me. Especially in this platform, what I'm learning and what we're doing and what I'm gaining in terms of my own spirituality is going out to everybody who is seeking and pursuing and who has a desire to find out. So even though I essentially did it for me because of all my questions, I'm learning that everybody benefits. Everybody benefits. So even though it kind of felt a little selfish in the beginning, when I open up, I share that when I come in contact with other people. So it's to their benefit too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think when we look at the scripture starts off in the beginning, talking about creating heaven and earth, and it goes, and Adam is the first name mentioned, and then all the way through Revelations, it's John talking, John on the Isle of Patmos. I think that's right anyway. But all those characteristics in there speaks of man, and all of it speaks of who we can become and what we can become in the decisions that we make and the things that we pursue and our place of consciousness, what is important to us and what we value. So Audrey says that, and I fully understand. I think we all started off pursuing something that I thought would benefit Ron, and it has blossomed into so much more. And the beauty of it is, I think the people on this phone, and again, whether you speak or not, I think we represent all those personalities and all those character traits that we see in the scripture. We're all that. The things that look evil, the things that look beautiful, all the things that end up being balanced. And that is why it shows that when we talk about all of us being connected, that is more true than we realize. So as we do what we do, I think we can see now. I think everybody is able to see with their own eye now, which makes it a collective thing, the value of what we do and how it has changed us individually and mankind. So thank you. I couldn't agree more with what you said, Audrey. Anyone
Good morning,
else?
Ron. May I add to that, please, as
Yes,
well?
of course.
I agree with everything that everyone has said this morning. And as I look at my own journey, I think about how many people were there to help me along the way. And I feel like I'm obligated to be there because by my desire to see people change, I agree with everything you've all said. I feel like I am obligated to make myself available to do everything that I can to help someone else grow in the journey and to see who they are. But I wanted to go back to your question about whether or not you feel you're owed something. Whether you feel you're owed something or not, there's the spiritual law of reciprocation that is at play at all times. Whatever you sow, that's what you're going to reap. So you do reap what you're sowing. So, but where are you sowing it from? Is it from a place of selfishness where you're saying, I did this for you, now you owe me, or is it I'm doing what I do because I love humanity and mankind and I want to make a difference in the whole in the whole understanding of humanity so that they can have the opportunity for the eye to be open to see who they are. So I guess I'm saying that and asking a question too. When we look at what is owed to us, where does reaping and sowing come into this? Because I see it as, whether you see it as something owed to you or not, what you put out there is what you're going to get back. So could you speak to that for a moment?
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone care to speak to Kathy's question?
I will. We are owed nothing in earthly terms of wages. Spiritually, every single time that we speak to the reality of what is, we are making a payment for the betterment of humanity. It is not so much what we receive, that's what we begun to, that's what we saw as we traveled this journey. It's not so much as what we receive, it's what we give. And what we are given is an understanding of the wisdom of all of creation. And no individual owe us anything for that. If we expect to be paid, whether it be through accolades or whether it be any other way, that should not be any expectation that we have at all. Our only expectation is what our desires are. Our expectations is the fulfillment of our desires. And our desires are for humanity to be on the same page, to love each other, for humanity to see each other as they see themselves. Does this mean that we're going to live in a perfect world? No, it doesn't. But what it does mean is, rather than having a meeting to determine how we are going to keep people in poverty, we are meeting to determine how we're going to bring humanity together as one. That's how I see the reward. That's how I see the difference in what we do and how we proceeded from the beginning. And our perception from the beginning may have looked like it was selfish, but it wasn't. Because if it were totally selfish, then the universe would not allow us to see what we've been shown. We, deep inside, we knew, but we had not yet understood the wisdom of it. We knew that we would be doing this for humanity as a whole. We knew that there is a better way, and how we get to that better way, we didn't know and didn't have any idea until now. So I hope I'm addressing, Kathy. If not, would you restate your question? Kathy, if you're talking.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. You kind of are, but you kind of not. What I'm saying is, I'm not confused on any of what you just explained, and I'm not confused. I'm just saying that when we look at what we put out there, whether I stop to think, am I being owed something or not, there are spiritual energies at work that are going to return to me what I put out there. And so therefore, I'm not coming from a place of loving kindness and with a pure desire to benefit all of humanity. if my motives are not pure, what I reap, and sometimes people we look at ourselves and say, well, how did I get here? Or why am I angry about this? Why does this keep happening to me? Then you have to stop and look at your motives and what you're putting out there. I'm just speaking for myself, not anyone else. That is how I approach it. That's why you hear me say I'll sit with something to figure out what was my role in this and why is this coming to me now. So I guess I'm saying that spiritual principle is always at play. But what we are learning, and I'm going to refer back to what Audrey said, we have all learned that it's not just about us, it's about the entire journey for humanity. And that's the motive for why we are on this phone. That's why we're on here trying to learn all that we can. That's why we talk to everyone that comes across our path to impart to them life and wisdom and understanding. But we're not really stopping to think, well, I'm going to read from this, because we're not seeing it as being owed anything. But I see it that principle is at work even when I'm not thinking about it, is all I'm saying, if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah, it does. The idea, Kathy, well, everyone for that matter, of reaping what we sow in regards to what we do, if your motive is not pure, if you're here on the, if we're here to debate, then we're in the wrong place, because the truth is not to be debated at all. There are winners and losers in a debate. We are here for understanding. We're not here to be controversial. We're not here to be antagonists. We are here to be the purveyors of truth. That's our only purpose, and our purpose is to be purveyors of truth, and the results of that is harmony with humanity. And if there is any other motive, then whatever your motive is, then that's what you're going to always get back. Meaning that if your motive is to create dissension, to argue, to debate, to challenge everything without having a pure purpose of wanting to understand it, then that's what you're going to live with throughout your life. It's coming back to haunt you. Why? Because the purity of hearts, that desire to know, to understand the wisdom that's been shown to us, does not lend itself to playing games. It does not create the space for dissension, but it does create the space for a difference of understanding. And when I say the difference of understanding, I'm not talking about opinion. Everybody got one of those. We are not here to talk about opinions. We are here to get clarity about truth. Opinions is what you think. Trying to get an understanding of truth is what you're seeking to know beyond what you think. Our thinking is already corrupt. And if our thinking is already corrupt, so are our opinions. So the depth of truth that we are able to see is for the purpose of change and not for the purpose of debate. And you, regardless of who you are, whether it's me or anyone else, if the motive is not pure, you will not see the truth. You will have maybe interludes with the truth, but to be able to have truth change your life, that will not happen. The only way that truth is going to change your life is that you have a genuine desire to know the truth, to be the truth, to live the truth. And that desire to know yourself brings all of that to our vision, for lack of a better word. So I think now, Kathy, I'm on with what you were saying, am I?
That's what I was trying to say. You said it beautifully. That was it. Thank you so much.
Okay, it sound like Ron. Saying it beautifully.
And beautifully.
Thank you.
Good discussion. Anyone else? I think today and yesterday, for that matter, beautifully illustrates what we do. And the questions, Evelyn's observation yesterday, Barbara asking the question about if not for the grace of God, that's not a coincidence. If I don't know if you ever noticed the flow of some of the conversations or things topics that we discuss. There's a lot of things that are being revealed, things in the earth are being uncovered. That's part of the chaos. We are addressing things that nobody gives thought to. Nobody comes up and say, well, what about this? What about that? What about it? Just comes to you. It comes to you because we have a desire for change. And as the energy flows, as you open yourself up, if you make room for these discussions, the questions come to you and the answers come. And if not come right away, we discuss it and we talk about things. This is part of what we do. So opening the book or not opening the book, we're still talking about truth and righteousness in the earth and how to bring about balance. So perfect example here this morning. Anyone else, questions and or comments?
Ron, I have something. This is Mary again.
Hey, Mary.
As you're talking about all of this, I think I thought about what Jesus said, and he told us that greater works will you do. Doing it doing this one-on-one or going out and help feeding the homeless and all that is good. But when you're on the phone and when we're doing this as a combined or a collective group and the energy is flowing, we're able to reach more people. And I see that as what Jesus said that we would be able to do. And we're doing it for the love of mankind and remembering what he said, love your neighbor as yourself. So all of this, and what I see it is fulfilling what Jesus said. Thank you.
You bring up an interesting point. We do. I still my example is parenting. You parent because you that is your commitment. That is your life. It's like dropping a drop of water on top of another drop of water. You can't separate either one of them anymore. They're both a part of the other one. And that's what parenting is. You are a part of what you created. And if we are the creators, then you are a part of what we see in the earth. So, you may need somebody, run into somebody that needs one-on-one care. And even when you minister or talk to that person one-on-one, you are feeding so many other people. That wisdom does not stay with that one person. It is carried on. And not only that, when you voice things, everything you voice, you're putting out there in the earth. So, we talk about repurposing energy. We do it all the time. Yes, ma'am.
If this is Rainier on,
Hey, Rainier.
yeah, I appreciate your clarification, because part of me wonders is, it's easy to sit on the call, right? It's easy to think about doing this in the spiritual and not thinking about the physical actions, because I don't actually have to physically touch anyone or talk to them or whatever. And when we say that's all we need, then I kind of go, part of me wants to go, because part of me is introverted. Fine. I'm just going to stay in my house or my whatever, my space, and I'm going to intercede spiritually and not worry about the physical intercession. But what I heard you say there was, because we are working through this spiritually, what we do in the physical manifests.
Yes.
And I may not have a desire to do this on my own, to talk to this person or help this person, but because of the work we're doing, I become aware of the need to do it when it comes, and I do it. And I do what I need to. So I don't know, I guess I was wondering if that's kind of what you're saying, because that's what I heard when you said that.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have said it better. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And you said it a lot clearer. Thank you.
Well, quick question for the group. In the understanding of truth and what we're learning and dissecting and pressing the great, even prior to the pandemic, I would take CDs and give them to some of the my coworkers, and just wanted to know: do you all invite people in your animal kingdom to experience what you are experiencing? Because if it's about mankind, I believe when the energy is out there, it's going to affect people. I do believe that. I'm just asking for my own, just being nosy. You all invite people to say, hey, this is what we do. You need to join us. Here's the password, bada bang, bada boom. Do you all do that?
If I can start it off, George, and of course others will hopefully have input as well. What I found in my circle in particular, that doesn't work. I can't tell you, I think everybody I know I've invited and given the number to join us on the weekend, whether or not Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. They'll ask me questions and I'll try to answer the question. I'll say, you know what, why don't you ask your question in this forum? Give us, and nobody's to do it yet. But so I look at it like this. As long as they keep asking questions and come to me with stuff they want to get off their chest, I take satisfaction in that. That may be as close as I get to get it, because I think getting them on this phone is not going to be the answer, but it may, and not everybody needs to be on this phone. This isn't for everybody. So that's my that's my 2 cents worth. I've had issues with people close to me not doing this that I've invited, but I still try to be the liaison between what they're searching for.
Yeah, and Ron, if I may, just add on to what you're saying, I too have reached out, in terms of just sharing my journey,
Yeah.
with regards to really dealing with the question in pursuit of truth. And a lot of times, people see you, people know you, and it's not something that you can force. I think there's a scripture saying,
Right.
not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit. And so when people, come to us or reach out to us, all we can do is just share the love of who we are. But I think that there's no coincidence when we talk about in pursuit of truth.
Yeah.
And we spoke about truth today. And again, it's one of the 7 principles of Ma'at. It talks about, the ability to be able to understand the difference between the real and the unreal. There are some people who are living, in an illusion or living, in a state of living, that again is not something that, again, you can force. But I think that sometimes people all sometimes have a desire to want to be like Mike or be like someone else. But if you are who you are, but I think that again, one of the things that I was shared to me very early before I even came a part of the foundation, you know what I mean, or in pursuit of truth, was that, Pastor mentioned, are you open? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And receive the, the truth, and you do your own research, your own study. But I come to believe that now that I have a foundation to be able to appreciate not just on who I am, but being able to share who I am, not in a way that, you have to be me, but I think the Spirit beareth witness. And if people feel your heart, soul, and they know that you really care about, not only who you are, but others, then we come to that conclusion and know I am because we are. So I just wanted to, share those thoughts in terms of addressing George's question. But again, just be who you are.
That's it.
Done.
That's very powerful. That's it. Thank you, George. Anyone else?
Hey, Ron, this is Charles.
Hey, Charles.
I believe what the Bible has said. Jesus said, but many are is been accused. I mean, you've been invited, but a few is chosen to accept the invitation. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Charles, I believe fully though, not everyone's supposed to be on this phone. And you might be right. There may be some that do not accept the invitation, for whatever reason. I think
It doesn't take everybody.
it doesn't take everybody, and the light. I think here's what I'm trying to say anyway. I think the light that we are becoming or have become is brighter than we think, and I think I'm agreeing with what George was saying. We are the enough. To you live and be who you're supposed to be, and those that are around us gain from that light. That's my best answer for that. Because I think we've all gone through the same thing of inviting other people and not understanding why they don't come. But the scripture speaks to that. Those that are invited, go out and invite these. Go out and invite. They don't come. They don't come to the feast. So, but we continue to do what we do.
Ron, this is Teresa. I agree with everybody in what they're saying. I don't think this is for everybody, but they do have questions because they do see our light.
Yeah.
And they always have questions. So it is not for us to try to regurgitate. I heard Pastor say that a couple of Sundays ago, but it's the best way that we can form it or share our experiences and what we're learning, because I get questions all the time.
Yeah. See?
But that's just my experience.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I would have to agree. Go ahead, whoever was talking.
Go ahead.
Charles brought up that many are called, but few are chosen, right? When the scripture speaks about that, that is what Jesus said at the end of the parable that I was talking about earlier, about those in the vineyard.
Yes.
That comes at the end of that. And I want to deal with that before we get off the phone, because there has been a common thread running through those parables, that parable rather. And I want to, after George finished speaking, I would like to open that up, if I may, or at least give you a glimpse of what I see. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, Rev. I agree with what everyone has said. Some things are not for everyone. And I can never explain why some things are not for everyone. All I can really give an attest for is this kind of engagement is just good for me. So, if it's not for everyone, at some point in time, just tell me why it's good for you. So, and like I say, I agree. Some things are not for everyone. I will say this, though, Mr. George out of Philly, my peoples would call me up and they would say, hey, George, break that 2020 thing down for me again. And I'm like, man, that's not me. So I'm glad to know that when you address yourself, you say Mr. George out of Philly, because some of my heads thought that was me. So, to you, Reverend Richard, and all the teachers and all the participants, you have had some impact in my trucking family. Yet everything ain't for everyone. Yet as long as you can explain why it's good for you, you will be fine. Thank you.
All
Can
right,
I say
thank you.
this though? Yeah, when I say it's not for everybody, I mean to be on this phone. The knowledge and the enlightenment is for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, that I'm not, I'm just saying everybody don't need to be on this phone for whatever reason. If they don't want to be on this phone, that still doesn't mean they don't get the benefit from it.
I mean, look at Jesus.
Yeah.
There were 12 people who walked with Jesus, and look how many people benefit from it. There are people who will not be able to digest what we talk about, and they become an impediment to our getting understanding out there. And because of their propensity to argue and debate about the difference between what we are teaching and what quote unquote Christianity says. No, they don't need to be here, because we are not here to engage in arguments. And that is the reason the universe does not allow everybody to be here. Now, why is it that they don't want to be? Many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called, but few are chosen. Why are there only few? Because the many who are called will only do what's easy to them. They only will do what's not, that which is comfortable to them. That which is confrontational, they don't want to deal with it. However, the few that are chosen is hemmed in like a water flowing through rocks. And their life circumstances, whether it be the questions about what's righteous and what's not, whether it be the questions about is the book a book of allegories, or is this real history? What all those questions, the questions that Audrey mentioned earlier that she had, and all of us have had those questions, or we wouldn't be here together. That's what the few are chosen mean. They are chosen because they have chosen themselves to do this. The few won't do it because it's not easy. It takes too much, not only energy, but it also takes too much out of what you say what you believe. When people are coming into the class on Mondays, the first thing I would tell new people is this: you have to make a decision whether you're going to be open or not, because I promise you, I will take your Jesus away from you. Some did not come back ever, and some did. If I say to you, if I will take your Jesus away from you, if you believe what you say you believe, then your question would be, how can you do that? And now you're curious enough to listen. That means that you're hemmed in because you want to know. If you don't come back to question that, then you weren't supposed to be there anyway. Now, that is the latter part of the parable that Jesus spoke. That parable all of us are familiar with. The master of the vineyard brought people in to work early in the morning, and then he saw some standing around at midday and asked them, "Why are you standing here?" And they said, "No one has hired us." He hires them to go into the vineyard, and then towards the end, what does he do? He hires some more to come into the vineyard. So all of us know that the vineyard is grapes. It's where grapes grow. And the grapes were being harvested. And when grapes are ripened, you have to harvest them then. You don't get to wait till tomorrow to do it. You have to harvest them then. So what the parable is saying is that there were those who were hired to harvest the grapes. And in the midday, the master of the vineyard saw that they were not harvesting the grapes fast enough. So he brought more people in to help them. And then at the end of the day, he saw that the day was drawing to a close, and they had not harvest all the grapes. So he brought in the last group of people. And when they finished the harvest, he says to one of his workers, he says to them, pay them their wages, starting with the last one to the first. What was he saying? What he's saying is, it does not matter when you came in. You were valuable regardless of when you came in. The one who came in last did the same thing that everyone else did. They harvest grapes and they were available. I'm paying them for their availability, for their desire to help me finish the harvest. If they are not available, then we lose a good portion of the harvest. So there should not be a selfish attitude because the last one got the same thing that the rest of them did, because every one of you played a vital part in the harvesting. The ones who came in first, if we had not brought anybody else in, the grapes wouldn't have rotted on the vines. We would not be able to use. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So how does that speak to us? The last shall be many are called, but few are chosen. Jesus is saying that the ones who came in at first and second ones who were upset about what the last ones were getting, they were the ones who was focused on what they were going to get as opposed to what they were doing, the value that they added to what was taking place. When we look at this from our perspective as to what we are doing, there are those who have been on this journey from the beginning. There are those who have poured over many, many books and spent hours, sometimes all night, trying to understand. Excuse me. There are those who stayed up for days searching and invested more money than I can think of in books and only got one thing out of it. Then there were those who came in the middle of midday, and they were able to glean from us who started at the beginning. They were able to glean from us those things that we had to search for. They didn't need to do the search to get it. We were able to continue the harvest with them. And there are questions that they brought to us that we never thought of, pressed us so that to find answers to their questions. And what they were adding value to what we were doing by virtue of asking questions and opening up more wisdom to us by their questions. And then there are those who are coming now who are at the end of the day. And what do they get? Because we have put so much in the macro, when they come in, it doesn't take long for them to pick up what we're saying. A couple of weeks ago, I shared with you that I taught a Bible class. Right after on Monday night, we got off our class. And one of the things that I talked about was Elohim. And in less than 10 minutes, they embraced the reality that they are Elohim. How did that happen? It didn't happen because I'm such a great teacher. It happened because the understanding of us being Elohim is in the macro, and I was able to pare down the understanding, the way I brought understanding to it because of what we had done in the past, from the beginning to those who came in with questions until where we are right now. They, in less than 10 minutes, they embrace the reality that they are God. That's what this is talking about. You cannot be upset because it took you longer to understand than it did those who coming in on the end. You cannot be upset with them, neither can you be upset with the teacher. You ought to be upset with yourself if that's how you feel. Because what you are experiencing is ego and selfishness. If ego begins to play a role in what we do, then it becomes disastrous, because your ego is not going to be fed by what we do. It's not going to happen. Why is it not going to happen? Because we are not going to allow it to happen. What we do is too important than that. And what this parable is saying is that harvesting these grapes are more important than me turning to your selfishness or trying to make you feel better about yourself. You got what you bargained to get. I told you this is what you were going to receive. That's what I gave you. Don't concern yourself with what I gave somebody else. Don't concern yourself with how quickly somebody else picked it up and you didn't. It's all about desire. And the greatest thing that can ever happen to us in relationship to this parable is for the multitude to come in at the end of the day and embrace what's being taught without having to struggle to get it. That's the joy. That's the reward. Seeing that they are able to do that without having to struggle like those did at the middle of the day and like those did at the beginning of this journey. Does that make sense? Are there questions or comments?
It makes sense to me. Questions, anyone? Questions or comments?
It makes sense. I understand a whole lot better too now.
Thank you. All I'm saying is that our desire is always for those who come to the banquet. They're invited to come. The door is open. Yet they won't come. And I'll give you an example of that. Prior to COVID, there were those who would come in on Monday nights. I knew why they were there. They were young. They were people who were getting ready to go into ministry. And they were asked questions about the scripture. And we would unfold the scripture for them. And after they did their initial sermon, they never came back. They came there because they wanted to impress somebody with the sermon that they were going to deliver. They wanted to make an impression that they knew what they were talking about, or they knew more than someone else. It didn't matter to me. What mattered to me is that someone else received insight into the wisdom of the scripture. That's all that mattered. And they embraced it because they used it in their message. And somebody who heard that was touched by it. So it doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm done.
Thank you, Pastor. I think that sums up the whole day. I mean, that's, you talk about what we do. We talk about the value, the importance of it. You talk about the reward of it. That sums every bit of that up. So this may be a good chance to go back and meditate, reflect on what was said, see if you have any questions or comments, and we will resume tomorrow. Any final questions or comments before we leave? Anybody? Okay, I hope you got a thought, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, family.
Bye.
Thank you.